Hi everyone, Audrey here, and welcome to Wild Bush and Grit. Today in this episode, we are back outside on my balcony, and I'm going to show again how I cook in my cast iron and carbon steel. The reason for that second video is one of the viewers, Alexander Mayer, where he has trouble is searing his steaks. You know, the steak sticks so much to the carbon steel that it removes some of the seasoning. I'm taking this opportunity to showing you how I cook my steak, and hopefully that's gonna shed some light also on cast iron, carbon steel versus Teflon type pan. And again, I said it in the previous video and I'm going to say it again, if you're looking for a hassle-free way of cooking, go Teflon. You know, don't bother with cast iron and carbon steel. Those, like cast iron, carbon steel, are very, it's a bit more tedious to work with, and you need some good technique to be able to effectively cook with them. No offense, Alexander. No offense to you. To me, the steaks start the day before. What I usually like to do is to salt the steak ahead, like at least 12 hours in advance. The advantage of doing this is the salt will kind of remove some of the extra moisture on the outskirt of the steak. Okay, what's important here is when you're searing that steak, you want a really nice crust on your steak to actually encapsulate the rest of the moisture. So you want to trap the moisture inside the steak. So you want the outer layer of the steak to sear very, very quickly. Too much moisture will actually make it boil a little, and probably this also leads to sticking a little bit more, you know, in cast iron and carbon steel. So first thing, salt your meat and dry it out. I will usually use a paper towel to pat it out from time to time. And the second most important thing that also you need to do is make sure that your steak are at room temperature before you start cooking them. I will usually take them out of the fridge for at least an hour and a half. You could do a half hour, that's okay, but you don't want your steak to go from fridge temperature straight into your cast iron or carbon steel, because the temperature drop, the contrast in temperature it's not going to be optimum, all right? Another secret that I can share with you is what fat will I be using. I'm using GHEE, clarified butter. I mean, you can buy it in the store, but it's very easy to do. In the process of clarifying the butter, you know, when you have a very slow rolling boil, the fat and the milk protein will split, and you remove the protein with just a spoon, and then you can strain using like a strainer at the end, and what you're left with is just pure fat. To begin the process, I like to heat up the pan at moderate low heat, and it's just to give the pan a chance to actually heat up evenly. I have thermometers like this, and I will try to report the various temperature from time to time. I don't cook with a thermometer. I'm doing the thing exactly that I usually do, and I'm just using this to give you more information. So right now the pan is about 110 and rising Celsius degree. It's getting warm to the touch. Okay. Now I can start to add some butter. I said butter, but I'm already using the GHEE though. And you can use a good amount, that's fine. The GHEE itself will not, it doesn't have much advantage. It's not like a fat that is going to be less sticky than any other. It's just that it doesn't burn as quickly as butter. And now what I'm looking for is that GHEE to be super liquid. And it's starting to look good, but not quite. I'm about 183 degree here, Celsius. I'm seeing a little bit of smoke, and this is where I'm going to put and also like the fluidity inside the pan. You know, those kind of long legs behind it. This is what you want to hear when you're... Now, if I were to pull that steak straight away, of course it's going to stick, okay? You have to let that crust to form before you actually move anything. So leave the steak in there for a while. Right now the oil on the side is about 170 Celsius. At the sound I feel I need a little bit more heat, so I'm going to increase slightly. It's difficult to get some reading, but I'm getting 150 Celsius degree, which I find it maybe a little bit low. Just again, I don't know usually what's the temperature of my steak, but right now, just by the sound of it, I feel that it's a little bit too low. So I'm still going to increase it a little bit, because you know that when that steak hit the pan, it's kind of lower the overall temperature, right? So now I'm gonna check for the crust. Yes, it's still stuck a little bit. But let it go. Don't touch it. It will eventually come up. Look at that. It works. So the steak is done. Me personally, I really like. Okay. Me personally, I really like my, my meat rare. This medium rare minimum. If you want to cook more thoroughly your cut of meat, I suggest you put your pan in the oven, at low temperature for a couple of minutes, just to raise the internal temperature. Maybe, if you like your stuff well done, maybe it's not a good idea to cook it thoroughly on the pan. I'm sure you could, if you were to lowering the temperature and all, but it's better to use the barbecue or the oven, in my opinion. So I'm gonna let this one on the side for a couple of minutes, at least 1 minute, and I want us to have a look here at the pan. So as I was turning the steak, you saw that there was a little bit of piece that was left, that kind of stuck in the pan, and this is normal. I mean, it's not, again, it's not Teflon. You will always have little tiny piece that will, be stuck at the bottom, here and here. Did it damage the seasoning? I don't have any. I can't say for now that it has damaged the seasoning. What I can do is I can clean the pan and then show it to you a little bit later. And the pan is, I didn't use the pan since last time, when I made the egg. This is the first time I'm using the pan. So it's the same seasoning that you saw when I was making my non-stick egg in the previous video. All right, so let it cool down and then I'll clean it and then we can have a look at it. Anyway, you know what? While we're at it and while the other pan is cooling down before we're cleaning, let me show you my cast iron. Here, my cast iron, I've been using this cast iron for years, so I have years and years and years of seasoning on this one. And so, same process here, nothing changes. I'm gonna warm up the pan. properly. And I'll add one piece and another piece. You hear that? This is what you want to hear. You want to hear that sizzling happening. See, it's getting colored. This is beautiful. Searing your steak actually traps the moisture inside the meat, but this is why it's so important to have that nice crust on the outer layer. And this is also, when I was saying that you need to dry up the meat as much as possible on the outside to prevent it from boiling, because as soon as we touch the cast iron, you want it to sear the meat. Okay, you want it to trap all that moisture inside. I like to move sometimes the meat around also the cast iron to make sure that we're using the heat evenly. What's my process for cleaning? What usually is I will use a soft rubbery spatula to kind of scrape the bottom, and I will dump all this stuff into, so we have some grittiness left into the pan, okay? And we'll take care of this in a second. I'm going to add a little bit of water to this just to soften up everything here. And I'll gently swirl it. And I can feel the grittiness already, leaving. Okay. And I'll dump that. Now I change the water and I add a little bit more water, and now I'm going to add salt. Okay, a bunch of salt. And I'm just gonna toss it around like this. You want the salt to polish and remove the extra grittiness that might be left behind. Okay, and this is good. So you just rinse the salt with running water, pat dry your your pan, and I like to add a little bit of fat. When I start seeing smoke, I just stop it. Final swirl around, and with some paper towel, I'll just wipe it. Here, you just wipe clean the pan, and you let it cool slowly, And that's it. That's how I usually. And again, your pan is going to perform better and better and better if you maintain it properly, and if you're not overburning or overcooking stuff in it. Don't do anything acidic in your pan, and you should be fine. So Alexander, I hope that kind of shed some light. And as you see, it's not perfect. You know, I can see there's a little bit of discoloration before and after making my steak, and it's normal. It's part of the experience. But know that, you know, like you saw in my cast iron, how almost flawless it was, right? And this cast iron has 3 years of use. So this one is relatively new. What you saw me do in that was the 3 eggs in that previous video, and that was the first time I was cooking a steak in this, and it wasn't so bad. I've seen worse. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any question, let me know in the comment. Consider subscribing if you like the material that you're seeing. And that's it. See you next time, folks. See ya.